A desperate single mother arrives for a job interview, holding her twin daughters by the hand. Everyone bursts into laughter, mocking the sight. But when the millionaire owner walks into the room and their eyes meet, silence falls. What happens next will leave you speechless. If you've ever felt like your world was against you, hit the like button, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories. The rain drummed against the bus windows as Clara Jenkins held her daughters close. Mia and Eva, 4-year-old twins, slept peacefully on her lap, their small heads resting on her shoulders. The 29-year-old woman stared out the wet window at the streets of Portland, Oregon, her heart beating faster and faster. Today was her last chance. She had been out of work for months, bills piling up on the table in her rented room. And now, even that small refuge was threatened. The landlady had already called twice about the overdue rent. Clara knew that tomorrow she might not have a roof over her and the girls' heads. "Next stop, Pioneer Courthouse Square," a mechanical voice announced on the bus. Clara gently shook her daughter's shoulders. "Mia, Eva, wake up, my darlings. We need to get off." Mia, always more alert than her sister, opened her big brown eyes. "Mommy, where are we?" "We're going to a very important meeting, remember? Mommy is going to talk to people about a job at a restaurant." Eva rubbed her eyes with small fists. "Can't we stay home?" Clara's heart ached. If only she could leave them with someone she trusted. But there was no one. Her parents had cut contact 3 years ago, when she refused to reveal the girl's father. Friends had gradually drifted away when her life became too complicated for their carefree get-togethers. "I can't leave you alone," she said softly, helping them put on their coats. "You'll be good and quiet, I promise." "We promise, Mommy," they said at the same time, which always made Clara smile, despite the difficulties. They got off in the rain. The Gilded Palette was just 2 blocks away, but each step felt like an eternity. Clara carried Eva, while Mia held her other hand tightly. Their clothes were clean, but visibly not of high quality. Clara wore her best blouse, a white shirt she had managed to iron with a borrowed iron. When they stopped in front of the restaurant's elegant facade, Clara felt her courage abandon her with every second. The Gilded Palette was one of Portland's most renowned establishments. Crystal chandeliers shimmered behind the large windows, and inside, she could see elegantly dressed people seated at tables with white tablecloths. "Mommy, it looks like a palace," Mia whispered in admiration. "Yes, my love, and maybe Mommy will work here." Inside, an atmosphere of restrained elegance prevailed. Clara looked around and noticed some people sitting in the waiting room, other candidates for the waitress position. They were all impeccably dressed, with professional handbags and an expression of self-confidence on their faces. None had children with them. As soon as Clara entered with the twins, the conversation ceased. She felt looks full of disapproval and astonishment. One of the candidates, a slender blonde in a pantsuit, whispered something to a colleague who cast a disdainful glance at them. Clara approached the reception, where a severe, middle-aged woman with short, perfectly styled hair sat. The sign on her desk read, "Victoria Stone." "Manager, good morning. My name is Clara Jenkins. I have a job interview scheduled for 2 p.m. Victoria Stone looked up from her documents, and her expression hardened upon seeing the girls. "Ms. Jenkins," she said coldly. The advertisement had no information about the possibility of bringing children to the interview. "I'm sorry, but I had no one to leave them with. I promise they will be very quiet." "This is very unprofessional," Victoria interrupted, not hiding her irritation. "The Gilded Palette is a serious business, not a daycare. Please, sit over there in the corner. I will interview the candidates in order, and you will be the last." Clara's cheeks flushed, but she nodded and led the girls to the designated corner. They sat on uncomfortable chairs, and the twins snuggled up to her, sensing her tension. The hours dragged on. One after another, The candidates were called for the interview and then left with either satisfied or disappointed expressions. Mia and Eva tried to be good, but they were hungry and tired. Clara had only a small loaf of bread in her bag, which she divided between them. "Mommy, when are we going home?" Eva whispered, resting her head on her mother's shoulder. "Soon, my love. Mommy still needs to talk to the lady." But deep in her heart, Clara knew that after a start like this, her chances were minimal. It was almost 4 p.m. when Victoria Stone finally looked at Clara. Mia and Eva had fallen asleep on her lap, exhausted by the long wait. Clara's legs felt numb under the weight of her daughters, but she didn't dare move them, fearing they would wake up and start crying. "Ms. Jenkins," Victoria called in a sharp tone. "It's finally your turn." At that moment, the main door opened, and a tall man, wearing an elegant dark gray coat, entered the restaurant. He was about 40, with dark hair and a few gray strands, and a face that could have been handsome, if not for the constant expression of weariness and melancholy. He carried an aura of silence, as if the world around him quieted automatically out of respect or fear. "Mr. Blackwood." Victoria stood up immediately, her tone becoming fawning and polite. "I wasn't expecting you today." Julian Blackwood nodded in greeting, but his gaze swept the interior of the restaurant. It paused for a moment on the group of elegant women in the waiting room, then moved and froze. In the corner, on uncomfortable chairs, was a young woman with 2 girls asleep on her lap. Her light brown hair was carefully pinned up, but some strands had escaped the hairstyle after a long day of waiting. The blouse, although clean and ironed, was clearly inexpensive, but it wasn't the clothes that caught his attention. It was the expression on her face. Weariness, determination, and something more, a fragile dignity that did not allow her to be defeated despite the obvious difficult situation. Something in his chest stirred painfully. That image, a mother with children on her lap, brought back memories he tried to bury deep in his mind. "Who is she?" he asked softly, without taking his eyes off Clara. "One of the candidates for the waitress position," Victoria replied with clear irritation. "Very unprofessional. She brought children to the interview. I was just about to dismiss her." "Dismiss her?" "Well, yes, get rid of her. This is not a place for—" "I'll speak with her," Julian interrupted. Victoria straightened up in surprise. "You, sir? But you never conduct staff interviews." "Today I will." His voice left no room for discussion. Clara noticed that something was happening. Victoria seemed surprised, and the elegant man was looking in her direction. Her heart began to beat faster. Was this the end? Would she be told she didn't belong here? Julian approached her slowly. Clara tried to stand up, but the girls were heavy and fast asleep. "Please, don't get up," he said softly. "I don't want to wake them." His voice was warm, completely different from Victoria's tone. Clara looked at him in surprise. "My name is Julian Blackwood. This is my restaurant." "Clara Jenkins," she whispered, feeling her cheeks burn. "I apologize for this situation. I know it's unprofessional, but I really had no one to leave the girls with." "How old are they?" 4. They're twins, Mia and Eva. Julian observed the sleeping children. Mia had longer hair, which fell over her face in soft curls, while Eva had a shorter cut and a calmer expression, even when sleeping. "Beautiful children," he said softly. "They seem to trust their mother." "They're all they have," Clara replied, before thinking about her words. For a moment, there was silence. Julian saw something in that woman's eyes that he recognized. Loneliness, responsibility for someone defenseless, the determination not to give up despite everything. "Why do you want to work here, of all places?" he asked, sitting on the chair in front of her. Clara was surprised by his calm tone. She expected reprimands, criticism, maybe even to be asked to leave. "Because I need a job," she answered sincerely. "I've been unemployed for 4 months. I've looked everywhere, in cafes, bars, even fast food places. But always, when they found out I had children and was alone, they always found a reason to choose someone else. And why were you fired from your previous job? Clara bit her lip. It was a painful story. I worked at a small restaurant in the city center. The owner accused me of stealing money from the register. It was a lie, but I couldn't prove it. He fired me without warning. Did you file a complaint with the labor board? With what? His word against mine. And I couldn't afford a long legal battle. The girls needed stability, not more chaos. Julian was silent for a moment, observing her face. He saw sincerity in her, but also the resignation of someone who had gotten used to the fact that the world isn't fair. Do you have experience in gastronomy? Yes. I've worked for a total of 2 years as a waitress and I finished culinary school. Culinary school? Julian raised his eyebrows in surprise. Clara hesitated. It was a truth she hadn't intended to reveal. Yes, but it was a long time ago. Now I just need a job as a waitress. I'm punctual, honest, and I work very hard. In Clara's voice, a desperation that she tried to hide resonated. Mia moved in her lap and murmured something in her sleep. Julian looked at that scene and felt his carefully constructed walls of indifference begin to crack. That woman was fighting for her children, just as his wife had once fought for their son, who was never born. Julian stood up from his chair and for a moment stood in silence, looking at Clara and the sleeping girls. In his mind, a battle was being fought between business reason and something deeper that he couldn't name. "Victoria!" he called in the direction of the manager, who had been watching with growing concern since the conversation began. "Yes, Mr. Blackwood. Do you have more candidates to interview?" "No, Ms. Jenkins was the last one. Then you can go home. I'll take care of the rest." Victoria's mouth opened as if to protest, but Julian's look prevented her from continuing. She grabbed her handbag and left, casting one last unfavorable glance at Clara. When they were alone, Julian sat down again. "Ms. Jenkins, can you start work tomorrow morning?" Clara looked at him in disbelief. "I'm sorry. I'm offering you the job, base salary plus a percentage of the tips. Does that please you?" Yes, of course, but..." Clara shook her head, as if trying to wake up from a dream. "Are you sure? After everything that happened today?" "It's exactly why I'm sure." Julian looked at the sleeping children. A mother who is able to wait 5 hours with children on her lap just to have a chance at a job is someone who can be trusted. Clara's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "I really don't know how to thank you." "There's one more thing," Julian added. "Where do you live with the girls?" "We rent a room in the industrial area. It's not an ideal place, but I have a proposal. In the back of the restaurant, there's a small apartment. My housekeeper used to live there, but it's been empty for a year. It has 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen, and a bathroom. You can live there with your daughters. Temporarily." Clara felt the world spin around her. This was too good to be true. You're serious?" "I don't have a habit of joking about business matters," he replied. But a flash of a smile shone in his eyes. "The only condition is that the girls can't disrupt the restaurant's work. Of course, I'll find someone to take care of them. That's not it. In the back, there is a small garden. They can play there, under the supervision of the chefs while you work, but they must be quiet during customer service." Eva opened her eyes and looked at the strange man sitting in front of them. "Mommy, who is he?" she asked in a sleepy voice. "It's Mr. Julian, Eva. He's the owner of this beautiful restaurant. Like a palace," Mia added, who had also woken up. Julian smiled for the first time in a long time. "Yes, a little like a palace. And what's your name?" "Mia, but Mommy calls me Mia Bug. And I'm Ava. But I'm not a lily in the garden," the sister said with seriousness, which made Julian laugh. "It's a pleasure to meet you girls. You're going to live here with Mommy." The twins looked at Clara with excitement. "Really, Mommy?" Clara nodded, still unable to believe what was happening. "Yes, my darlings, we will have a new home. I'm going to show you the apartment," Julian proposed, getting up, "so you can see if you like it." They passed through the main dining room, near the elegant kitchen, where some chefs were preparing for the evening service. Everyone looked with curiosity at the small procession. The apartment was indeed modest, but clean and cozy. The larger room had a wide window overlooking the garden. The smaller one was ideal for the girls' bedroom. The kitchen was small, but functional. "Mia Bug, look!" Eva ran to the window. "There are flowers and a bench here. And a swing," Mia added, pointing to an old wooden swing hanging from a large oak tree. Clara stood in the doorway and looked at her daughters, who for the first time in months seemed genuinely happy. She turned to Julian with eyes full of gratitude. "Why are you doing this? You barely know me." Julian looked out the window at the girls playing. His face became serious. "Everyone deserves a second chance, Ms. Jenkins. Some of us just wait longer for it." There was a note of sadness in his voice that Clara couldn't understand, but she decided not to ask. Everyone had their secrets, their wounds. She also had hers. "When can we move in?" she asked. "As soon as tonight, if you like. Here are the keys." He handed her a small set of keys. "Tomorrow, at 8 in the morning, you will meet the rest of the team. The first shift starts at 10. Clara took the keys, feeling their weight in her hand. They were the keys to a new life. "Mr. Blackwood, I don't know how to repay you. Please, just do a good job and take care of those girls. That's enough." That night, as Clara tucked her daughters into bed in their new room, Mia asked, "Mommy, is that man good?" "Yes, my love, I think he's very good." "Then why does he look so sad?" Clara stroked her daughter's hair. "Sometimes good people are sad, Mia Bug, but maybe our smiles will make him feel better." Outside, the rain whispered. But for the first time in months, Clara felt safe. She still didn't know that that rainy day would change not only her life, but also the life of the lonely restaurant owner who had lost faith in risking his heart again. 3 weeks passed like a dream. Clara woke up every morning at 6, prepared breakfast for the girls, and then took them to the garden, where they could play under the watchful eye of Chef Leo, the oldest chef, who had adored the twins since the first day. "There's nothing like a child's laughter in the kitchen," he would say, offering them pieces of warm croissants. Clara quickly found her place on the team. She was punctual, polite, and had a natural talent for serving customers. Some clients were already specifically asking for her tables, which did not go unnoticed by the other waitresses. "The new girl is lucky," whispered Sarah, the oldest waitress, to a colleague. "But let's see how long that luck lasts." Clara tried not to pay attention to the whispers and envious glances. She concentrated on her work and the girls, who were flourishing in the new environment. Mia made friends with the restaurant's cat, Ginger, while Eva loved to help Chef Leo with simple tasks, like measuring flour or whipping croissant cream. Julian watched that small family from a distance. Every morning, sitting in his office with a cup of coffee, he looked out the window at the garden, where the girls were playing under the oak tree. Their laughter even reached him through the closed windows, filling the space that had been dead for years. Sometimes, he would catch himself smiling unconsciously upon seeing Eva trying to catch a butterfly, or Mia reading a book in the shade of the swing. They were moments that, at the same time, warmed his heart and reminded him of what he had lost. "Mr. Blackwood?" Clara appeared at his office door with a tray. "I brought lunch." Over the past 3 weeks, this had become a routine. Clara would bring meals to him in his office, as he rarely came down to the main dining room during service. "Thank you," he replied, looking away from his documents. "Chef Leo made some beef stew today. He says it's your favorite." "Leo talks too much," Julian murmured, but there was warmth in his voice. Clara placed the tray on the table and was about to leave when he stopped her with his voice. "How are the girls settling in?" "Wonderfully. I've never seen them so happy. Eva says she wants to be a chef like Leo, and Mia claims she's going to learn to read all the books in your library. For the first time, Julian smiled. Maybe we should really organize some lessons for them. That's very kind of you, but I don't want to be a bother. It's not a bother. A child should learn. At the door, Chef Leo appeared with a serious expression. Mr. Blackwood, there's a lady here who wants to talk to you about Clara and the girls. Clara went pale. What? She didn't give her name, but she says it's urgent. She's waiting in the main dining room. Julian stood up with determination. I'll talk to her. Maybe I should go with you, Clara proposed, visibly nervous. No, stay here. I'll be back in a moment. In the main dining room, an elegant woman in her 40s, wearing an expensive pantsuit, was waiting. She had short dark hair and the confident look of someone used to getting what she wanted. Mr. Blackwood? She stood up from her chair. My name is Dr. Camila Thompson. I'm a lawyer. How can I help you? I represent the interests of a person who has legitimate concerns about the situation of Ms. Clara Jenkins and her daughters at your restaurant. Julian felt a shiver run down his spine. What concerns? Do you know why Ms. Jenkins was fired from her previous job? Yes, she was falsely accused of theft. Falsely? The woman smiled coldly. Do you have proof of this falsehood? And does she have proof to the contrary? I am not the one being questioned here, Mr. Blackwood. My client is concerned about the safety of the children. A restaurant is a workplace, not a daycare. Did you check Ms. Jenkins' documents, her past, her connections? I don't see the need. Perhaps you should, especially if you are concerned about the reputation of your establishment. The lawyer placed a business card on the table. If you would like to discuss this matter discreetly, before the situation gets out of control, please call. Some information can be unpleasant, but it is better to know it now than later. She left, leaving Julian with thousands of questions and a growing uneasiness. When he returned to the office, Clara immediately noticed the change in his behavior. What did she want? She asked with fear in her voice. She asked about you and the girls, about me, but who? I don't understand. Julian looked at her for a long time, searching her eyes for some sign that she was hiding something important. But he saw only sincere panic. Clara, is there anything I should know? Something from your past that could… No, she interrupted him quickly. I don't think so. I haven't done anything wrong. But in her voice there was a note of uncertainty that did not go unnoticed by Julian. For the first time in 3 weeks, he felt a wall had risen between them. That night, Clara couldn't sleep for a long time. She lay in bed, listening to the peaceful breathing of her sleeping daughters, and she wondered who could have hired the lawyer. Was it related to her previous job? Or perhaps something much worse, the girl's father? Cuddled in her pillow for the first time in weeks, she felt afraid that everything, that safe home, the job, the peace, could end as suddenly as it had begun. The following days passed in a strange atmosphere of tension. Julian became more distant, although he tried not to show it. Clara noticed his colder glances, shorter conversations, the way he avoided being alone with her. The lawyer's business card lay on his desk like a silent accusation. On Thursday night, when the restaurant was empty, Clara was cleaning the last tables, and the girls were playing in the garden under the watchful eye of Chef Leo. It was already dark, but the warm lights of the kitchen created a cozy atmosphere. "Mia Bug, come to Mommy," she called from the window. "Time for a bath." Silence. "Mia!" she called louder, feeling the first pang of anxiety. Chef Leo came out of the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron. "What's happening?" "I don't see Mia." "Ava, where's your sister?" Eva was sitting on the swing and sucking her thumb. She always did that when she was scared. "I don't know, Mommy. She was here and then she disappeared." Clara's heart began to beat uncontrollably. She ran into the garden, calling her daughter's name. Chef Leo joined her, lighting up the bushes and behind the trees with a flashlight. "Mia, this isn't funny. Come out now!" Julian heard the shouts from the main dining room. He ran outside and saw Clara in a panic, searching every corner of the garden. "What happened?" "Mia is gone. She was just here a little while ago and now—" She didn't finish the sentence, because from a distant corner of the garden came the bark of a dog and a child's laughter. They all ran there and saw Mia sitting on the grass next to a golden retriever belonging to a long-time customer of the restaurant. "Mia Bug!" Clara fell to her knees and hugged her daughter. "Where were you? You scared Mommy." "Mr. Arthur said Boris has new tricks. I wanted to see," the girl explained, not understanding the adult's panic. Arthur Evans, a gentleman who frequently dined at the restaurant, approached with an apologetic expression. "1,000 pardons. I thought you knew. Mia Bug said she could play with Boris." "Mia!" Clara hugged her daughter tighter, but there was anger in her voice. "Never, never go away without permission. Do you hear me?" The girl started to cry, scared by her mother's tone. "Sorry, Mommy." Julian watched the entire scene with growing irritation. In his mind, the lawyer's words about the children's safety at the restaurant resonated. What would happen if Mia really got lost? If she went out into the street? If— "This cannot happen again," he said softly, but with firmness. Clara looked at him with tears in her eyes. "I know. Sorry. It won't happen again." "I hope so," he replied coldly, "because if it does, I will have to make other decisions." The words sounded like a threat. Clara felt her stomach rise to her throat. The next day, the atmosphere in the restaurant was tense. Mia and Ava, sensing the change in mood, were exceptionally quiet. They sat at a table in the kitchen, drawing with colored pencils, while Clara nervously served customers. "Mommy looks sad," Eva whispered to Chef Leo. "Sometimes adults worry, little one," the chef replied. But he himself felt that something had changed. Around noon, a young man in a suit entered the restaurant. He approached Clara, who was arranging cutlery on the table. "Clara Jenkins?" "Yes. I'm Marcus Green, from Portland's Tastes magazine. I would like to ask you some questions about your work here." Clara looked at him in surprise. "I don't understand." "We received information that the Gilded Palate has a waitress with an interesting story. A single mother, with children, living at the restaurant. That is a private matter, of course. But our readers love these stories. From rock bottom to the stars, you know? Especially when we discover certain controversial circumstances from your previous employment." Clara went pale. "I have nothing to say." The journalist smiled unpleasantly. "Maybe we can talk in a more private setting." At that moment, Julian appeared. "Can I help you?" "Marcus Green, journalist. I'm writing an article about your restaurant and this unusual employee situation." Julian looked at Clara, who was as pale as a wall. "Please, leave my restaurant. Immediately. But this is a matter of public interest. This is my private property. Please leave before I call security." The journalist shrugged and left, but not without a last meaningful look at Clara. "What was that?" Julian asked when they were alone. "I don't know. Someone must have informed him." "Who? And about what?" Clara opened her mouth, but she didn't know what to say. She felt that she was getting entangled in a lie. But the truth was even more terrifying. "Clara," Julian took her hand. "You need to tell me what's happening. What is all this about?" For a moment they looked into each other's eyes, and between them, a question hung that Clara was not ready to answer. "I can't," she whispered finally. "Not yet." That night, while the girls slept, Clara sat at the window and looked at the dark garden. She felt that her happy dream was coming to an end. Somewhere there, in the shadow, her dark past lurked, ready to devour everything she had managed to build. And in his office, Julian held the lawyer's business card and wondered if he shouldn't call. "What do you think is a fair price for a secret that could break a heart? Let me know in the comments." On the weekend, the Gilded Palate was buzzing with life. Saturday lunches attracted the Portland elite: businessmen, artists, politicians. Clara tried to maintain a sense of normalcy, but she felt the customers' eyes on her, as if everyone already knew about the article that was about to come out. Table 8 is calling for you, Sarah said with poorly disguised satisfaction. It's the famous food critic, Mr. Peixoto. Clara approached the table with her heart pounding. Peixoto, a man in his 50s with a gray beard, was carefully studying the menu. Good morning, how can I serve you? He looked up and observed her carefully. Ah, so you're the famous waitress with children. Excuse me? I received a tip from a fellow journalist. It seems you have an interesting story. He smiled unpleasantly. I'm not just interested in the food, but also the people who serve it, especially those with baggage. Clara felt her cheeks burn. Can I take your order? Of course, but first, is it true that you were fired from your previous job for theft? Clara's hands began to tremble. That's not true. And the girls? Who is their father? I've heard several theories. Please, just tell me what you want to order, she said softly, trying to stay calm. From the kitchen, suddenly, came a scream from Eva. Clara jumped from the table and ran there, leaving the surprised critic. In the kitchen, Eva had her hand under cold running water, crying. Chef Leo was trying to calm her down. What happened? She touched a hot pan, Chef Leo explained. Nothing serious, sweetie boss, but she got scared. Clara hugged her daughter. It's okay, my love. Mommy's here. It hurts, Eva sobbed. At that moment, Julian entered the kitchen with an expression of anger. What's going on? Customers are complaining that you left them in the middle of service. Eva got burned. Chef Leo could have taken care of her. Your place is at the tables. The words hit Clara like a slap. She's my daughter, and this is my restaurant. If you can't reconcile the two things. Mr. Blackwood, Chef Leo intervened softly. It was just an accident. Lately there have been too many accidents, Julian replied coldly, and too many problems. Clara got up, still holding Eva in her lap. Anger burned in her eyes. If you think I'm a problem, maybe I should leave. Maybe you should, he replied without hesitation. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. Even Chef Leo held his breath. All right, Clara whispered. I'll hand in my notice tomorrow morning. She left the kitchen, carrying the crying Eva. Mia, who was watching the whole scene from a corner, ran after them with wide eyes and full of tears. Mommy, what's happening? Why is everyone yelling? Nothing is happening, Mia Bug, Clara lied, fearing she herself would burst into tears. Let's go to our room. That night, Clara packed her things in 2 old suitcases. The girls were sleeping, tired from the day's emotions. They had nowhere to go, but she couldn't stay in a place where she wasn't welcome. Around midnight, she heard a soft knock on the door. She opened it, expecting Chef Leo, but saw Julian. He looked tired and remorseful. Can we talk? The girls are sleeping. Good. What I have to say is not for their ears. They went out to the garden. The moon shone brightly, illuminating the bench under the oak tree. They sat side by side, but there was an abyss between them. Yesterday I acted like a complete idiot, Julian began. You acted like a boss who is tired of problems, Clara replied softly. No, I acted like a coward. She looked at him in surprise. I called that lawyer, he continued. I found out some things about you and the girls. That the twins' father is Senator Marcus Thorne, one of the richest businessmen in the country. That you hid him from him, and from everyone. That's why you lost your previous job. Someone recognized you and turned it into a scandal. Clara closed her eyes. It's true, and that now he is trying to find you. I don't want him to find us, she whispered. I never wanted to have anything to do with him. Why? For a long moment she was silent. Then she began to speak softly, looking at the stars. I met him 6 years ago. I was working as a waitress in an elegant hotel in Boston. I had just finished culinary school. He was there for some business conference. He was charming, handsome. He told me things I wanted to hear. That I was special. That he had plans for the future. Her voice failed. I didn't know he was married. I only found out when I got pregnant. And he wanted me to get rid of the children. He offered money. He threatened to destroy my life. When I refused, he disappeared. And you gave birth to the twins alone. Yes, I moved to Portland. I changed my address, my phone number. I thought I would be safe here. But a year ago, someone recognized me at work. There was a big mess, rumors. The owner of the restaurant didn't want a scandal, so he accused me of theft and fired me. Julian listened in silence, feeling a growing anger at the man who had treated Clara that way. "And now he is looking for you?" she asked with fear in her voice. "It seems so. That lawyer said he has become very influential. He has political ambitions. It seems he wants to fix his past." "What does that mean?" "I don't know. Maybe he wants to bribe you into staying silent. Or maybe he wants to take my daughters," she finished in a whisper. Julian turned to her. "Clara, why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was afraid," she exploded. "Afraid that you would kick me out like all the others, that you would think I was a problem, a burden. Do you think I am that small?" "I don't know who you are," she cried openly now. "I don't know anything about you, about your past, about why you are so closed off. I don't know why you sometimes look at the girls with such sadness." Julian stood up and took a few steps. When he turned around, his eyes glistened in the moonlight. "I was married," he said softly. "Elisa was my whole world. We tried to have children for 5 years. When she finally got pregnant, we were the happiest people in the world. We bought a crib. We painted the baby's room. We made up names." His voice failed. "Elisa died in the 7th month of pregnancy, along with our son. One night, her heart just stopped beating. The doctors couldn't explain why." Clara covered her mouth with her hand. "After her death, I sealed myself off in this restaurant like a tomb. I didn't want to love anyone again, because I couldn't survive another loss. Then you appeared with the girls." He approached her and knelt down in front of the bench. "For the first time in 5 years, I wanted to live again. I heard their laughter in the garden and thought that maybe life had meaning, that maybe Elisa wanted me to be happy." He took her hands in his. "And when I started to be afraid of losing you, I acted like the ultimate coward. I chose loneliness because it seemed safer. Clara, I love you, and I love Mia and Eva. It doesn't matter who their biological father is. No matter how complicated your past is, I want to be a part of your future." Clara cried now without restraint. All the fears, all the loneliness, all the sleepless nights, everything flowed out of her along with the tears. "I love you too," she whispered. "But what if he finds us? We'll deal with it. Together." It was exactly the word "together" that she had longed to hear her entire life. The following weeks were like a honeymoon. Julian and Clara rediscovered each other, this time without secrets or walls. He told her about Elisa, about the pain he carried in his heart. She told him about the years of raising the girls alone, about the fear of tomorrow. Mia and Eva revived, seeing their smiling mommy and Mr. Julian, who now came down from the office more frequently to talk with them. At night, he read them stories in the garden, and they called him our Mr. Julian. "Mommy, is Mr. Julian going to stay with us forever?" Eva asked one night. "I don't know, my love. Why do you ask?" "Because I want him to stay and be our daddy." Clara felt a warmth in her heart, but also an uneasiness. Wouldn't it be too fast? Wouldn't the girls get too attached? Her fears proved prophetic. On a Wednesday morning, 2 elegant cars arrived at the restaurant. From the first, the known lawyer emerged, Dr. Camila Thompson. From the second, a tall, handsome man in an impeccably tailored suit. He had dark hair sprinkled with gray, and the confident look of someone used to winning. Senator Marcus Thorne, the father of Mia and Eva. Clara was serving breakfast to regular customers when she saw him. The plate slipped from her hands, breaking on the floor. All heads turned in her direction. "Clara," Marcus said calmly, "it's good to see you." It wasn't a casual tone. It was the voice of a man who had come to get what he wanted. Julian immediately appeared at her side. Do you wish for something? Marcus Thorne, I think your girlfriend told you about me. Clara is not my girlfriend. She's my fiancée, Julian said, surprising himself with that lie. Marcus smiled coldly. Congratulations. Although I'm not sure she informed you about all the details of our common past. He knows everything, Clara replied, finally finding her voice. Seriously? And he knows I'm the biological father of these two adorable girls? A silence fell over the restaurant. All the customers stopped eating. Maybe we should go to the office, Julian proposed. I'd rather see my daughters, Marcus said. After all, I've never seen them. Because you didn't want to, Clara hissed. I was young, unprepared. But now a lot has changed. I'm divorced, I have a stable situation, and I want to be a part of my daughters' lives. At that moment, the girls' laughter came from the garden. Marcus walked toward the door, but Julian blocked his way. Not so fast. Do you have any right to prohibit me from seeing my own daughters? The lawyer handed Julian the documents. This is a court order for preliminary DNA tests and visitation rights, all in accordance with the law. Clara felt the world fall apart around her. You can't just show up after 6 years and— I can, and I did, Marcus interrupted. I am their father, no matter how much you tried to hide that from me. Hide it? You're the one who disappeared? You're the one who wanted me to get rid of them? That was a different situation. Now I'm ready to take responsibility. Mia and Eva ran into the room because they heard the raised voices. They stopped upon seeing the strangers. Mommy, what's happening? Mia asked. Marcus looked at them with fascination. Seeing the living proof of his biological connection with those small creatures was a shock for him. Mia had his eyes, and Eva the shape of his face. These are my daughters, he said softly to the lawyer. Your daughters were raised by me for 6 years, Clara exploded. Your daughters were fed by me when they were sick. Your daughters cried, asking why they had no father. And now they have one, he replied calmly. Eva began to cry, scared by the adults yelling. Mia hugged her protectively. Who is he, Mommy? She asked. Clara knelt down beside her daughters. He is the man who helped Mommy have you. Is he our daddy? Eva asked amidst tears. The silence that followed was unbearable. Yes, Marcus finally said. I am your daddy. But we have Mr. Julian, Mia protested. Mr. Julian is not your real daddy, Marcus replied softly. I am. The girls looked at Julian in fear, as if they were afraid he would leave them. No one is taking anyone, Julian said, kneeling beside Clara. Sometimes people have more than one adult who takes care of them. Marcus did not seem satisfied with this diplomacy. I would like to spend some time with the girls, alone. It is my right. No. Clara hugged the girls tightly. They don't know you. They're scared. That will change. The lawyer handed over the papers again. According to the decision, Mr. Thorne has the right to 2 hours of contact with the children this week, in the presence of a child psychologist. And if we don't accept, Julian asked, then the next step will be court, and things can get much more complicated. Marcus leaned down to Mia and Eva. Girls, would you like to play with me? We could go to the park, get some ice cream. We don't want to, Mia said firmly, taking Julian's hand. We want to stay with our Julian. For the first time in many years, Marcus Thorne heard the word no and could not ignore it. But in his eyes, something shone that did not bode well. We'll see, he said softly. We'll see. The following days were a nightmare. Marcus Thorne did not give up. Every day he came to the restaurant trying to establish contact with the girls. He brought expensive gifts that they rejected, talked about the big house he had in Boston, about the trips they could take together. Mia and Eva reacted worse and worse. Eva started sucking her thumb again and woke up crying at night. Mia became aggressive, yelling at the stranger who said he was her father. My daddy wouldn't abandon Mommy, she screamed when Marcus tried to hug her. But I didn't abandon you. I just didn't know you existed, he explained patiently. You're lying, Mia yelled. "Mommy said you knew." Clara watched her daughters suffer and felt helpless. Every night they cried, asking if that stranger would take them away from Mommy and Mr. Julian. "I won't let him take you," she promised, but she wasn't sure of her own words. Julian consulted with lawyers, but they all said the same thing. A biological father has rights that are difficult to contest, especially when he has influence and money. "You could adopt the girls if you get married," one of the lawyers said. "That would strengthen your position. But Marcus Thorne would still be their biological father," another added. "And if he wanted to fight for full custody?" Clara asked. "Why would he want to? He has political ambitions, a wife, children, a stable family. That's a good image for a senatorial candidate." Clara felt nauseous. Was Marcus really treating his daughters as props in his political game? On Friday night, when the restaurant was closed, Chef Leo brought worrying news. "There was a man here today, when you weren't around," he said. "He asked the staff about you, about the girls, offered money for information." "What man?" Julian asked. "He didn't introduce himself, but he looked like a private detective. He wanted to know about your habits, about how long Clara has worked here, if the girls are often alone." Clara paled. "What did you say to him?" "Nothing, of course, but some of the staff. Well, you know, everyone has their financial problems." That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, listening to her daughter's peaceful breathing, and felt a growing fear. Marcus was clearly gathering material against her. But what? The next day brought the answer. Victoria Stone, the previous manager who had been fired, appeared with a lawyer. "Do you mind a brief conversation?" the lawyer asked. "About what?" "About your inadequate parenting practices." Clara looked at him in disbelief. "Excuse me?" Victoria smiled triumphantly. "I told Mr. Thorne how you leave the children alone in the restaurant, how you allow them to bother customers, how you don't control them, and those are lies. And that time when Mia went missing for half an hour, or when Eva burned herself in the kitchen because no one was taking care of her? They were accidents. And the fact that you sleep with the boss, using the children as a pretext to stay at the restaurant." Clara felt her cheeks burn. "That has nothing to do with my motherhood, doesn't it? And is this environment suitable for small children? A restaurant where you work until late at night, where there is alcohol and strangers?" Julian appeared at the door, hearing the raised voices. "What's happening here?" "Mr. Blackwood," the lawyer stood up. "I represent Marcus Thorne in the case of custody of his daughters. We would like to ask you some questions about Ms. Jenkins as a mother. As a mother, she is impeccable." "Really? And don't you think that a relationship with the boss can influence your objectivity in making decisions related to the children? Don't you think she uses the children to manipulate you?" "That's absurd," Victoria intervened sarcastically. "Or maybe you can tell us about those nightly visits to her room. While the children sleep behind the wall." Julian took a step towards her, but Clara stopped him. "Get out of here," she said softly. "Now?" "Of course." The lawyer put the papers back in the folder. "But it's not the end. Mr. Thorne is very determined to ensure his daughters have proper care and a proper environment." When they left, Clara collapsed in a chair. "They are collecting material against me. They are trying to prove I'm a bad mother. They won't succeed. What if they do?" She looked at Julian in despair. "What if the court decides they are right? That the girls will be better off with a rich father in a big house than with me in a restaurant?" "Clara, maybe we should separate," she whispered. "Maybe if I weren't with you, they wouldn't have arguments." "No!" Julian knelt down in front of her chair. "I won't let you give up. I won't let them separate us. But what if—" He interrupted her with a kiss. "Trust me, I have a plan." At that moment, Mia and Eva ran into the room, scared by their mother's crying. "Mommy, why are you crying?" Eva asked. Clara opened her arms and hugged her daughters. "Because I love you very much." "We love you too, Mommy," Mia said. "And Mr. Julian too. And that man who says he's our daddy?" Eva asked. "We don't love him at all," Mia replied firmly for herself and her sister. "He's not our daddy. Our daddy wouldn't abandon Mommy." Hearing those words, Julian felt his heart break and heal at the same time. Those girls, who were not his blood, who he had met only a few months ago, loved him as a child, loves a father. And now, someone was trying to take them from him. But Julian Blackwood was not going to give up. He had already lost a son. He would not allow that to be taken from him again. On Monday morning, a judicial summons arrived. Marcus Thorne filed an official petition to obtain custody of his daughters, alleging inadequate educational conditions provided by the mother. Clara was sitting in the kitchen, with documents scattered on the table, feeling like a cornered animal. Julian tried to comfort her, but the words sounded empty in the face of the legal jargon that could destroy her life. "Listen to this," she said, reading aloud. "The mother places the children in an inadequate commercial environment, exposing them to contact with strangers at different times of day and night. The children are deprived of a stable family home and adequate pedagogical education. That's absurd. And what if it's not?" Clara looked at him in despair. "What if they are right? And what if the girls would really be better off in a normal house, with a garden, their own rooms, without the smell of food and the noise of the restaurant?" "Clara, stop!" The mother, maintaining an informal relationship with the employer, can make decisions motivated by financial reasons and not by the well-being of the children. She threw the papers on the table. "They say I'm with you just for money." At that moment, Eva, crying, ran into the kitchen. "Mommy, that man is here again!" Through the window, they saw Marcus talking to a man near his car. The latter was taking photos of the restaurant. "Journalist," Julian muttered. "He's preparing a media campaign. Businessman fights for daughters with homeless mother," Clara said bitterly. "I can already see the headlines." Mia joined her sister, holding her favorite teddy bear. "Mommy, is that man going to take us?" "No, my love, nobody is going to take you." But even saying that, Clara was not sure of her words. That same afternoon, another visit came. This time, a child psychologist, appointed by the court. A young woman, called Dr. Anna Rodriguez, would interview the girls. "It's a standard procedure," she explained. "I just want to talk to the children, see how they feel in their environment." She talked to each of the twins separately. Mia was suspicious and answered briefly. But Eva, always more open, told about her life in the restaurant. "I like living here," she said, showing her drawings. "Mr. Leo teaches me to cook, and Mr. Julian reads me stories. And Ginger, the cat, sometimes sleeps in my bed." "And what do you think about the man who says he's your father?" Eva frowned. "He's not my father. My father would not abandon me. Mr. Julian is my father." After the conversations, the psychologist also spoke with Clara. "The girls seem happy and healthy," she said. "But don't you think a restaurant is an unusual place for small children? Where would we live? I can't afford to rent an apartment in Portland. And Mr. Thorne offers them a house, financial stability, the possibility of an education in good schools. He offers them a stranger who was not interested in them for 6 years of their life. But people change. Maybe now he is ready to be a father." Clara felt the ground disappear from under her feet. Even the psychologist seemed inclined to believe in Marcus's goodwill. At night, when the girls were sleeping, Clara and Julian were sitting in the garden, in silence. In the air, the smell of autumn leaves and an imminent change hung. "I'm thinking of running away," Clara finally said. "What?" "We can take the girls and leave for another country. We will start over." "Clara, that's crazy. Then you will really lose the rights to the children. And now I have them. You see what's happening? Everyone, the court, the psychologist, the media, they are all on his side. A rich businessman against a poor mother with problems. You are not alone. You have me. And what if that's not enough?" She looked at him with tears in her eyes. "What if we lose? What if the court decides that the girls will be better off with him? Julian took her hand. That's not going to happen. I will not allow it. You can't know. I know one thing. These children love you, and the court will see that. Or maybe not. Maybe they will only see what Marcus wants to show them. A rich and stable father, and a chaotic mother who lives in a restaurant with her lover. A long silence followed. In the distance, the hiss of cars on the street could be heard. And from the kitchen, the smell of freshly baked bread for the next day's breakfast came. Clara, Julian finally said, if I asked you to marry me, would you marry me? She looked at him in surprise. What? I know these are not the ideal circumstances, but I love you. And the girls? I want to be your family. A real family. Julian, if we were married, my position as a stepfather would be stronger. I could adopt the girls, but that would not change the fact that Marcus is their biological father. No, but it would show the court that we offer them a stable home, a real home, and that this is not just a casual relationship. Clara was silent for a long time, looking at the windows of the room where her daughters were sleeping. And what if we lose anyway? Then we will lose together. There was a determination in his voice that made Clara feel the first flicker of hope in weeks. Yes, she whispered. Yes, yes, I will marry you, but not for legal reasons. She looked into his eyes. Because I love you, and because I want us to be a family. They kissed in the starlight. Without knowing that, on the corner of the building, a man with a camera had just taken a series of photos. In the morning, those photos would arrive at Marcus Thorne's desk. The war for the girls had just intensified. On the next morning, Clara woke up with a strange sense of peace. For the first time in weeks, she knew what to do. Julian was already awake, sitting at the window, watching the sunrise over the garden. You don't regret it? She asked, approaching him. What would I regret? The best decision of my life? She hugged him from behind, feeling the warmth of his arms. How do you want to do this? A wedding in such circumstances? Quick and discreet. This morning, I'm going to the registry office. I'll handle the formalities. No, we can get married this week. And the girls? We'll tell them after everything. I don't want them to worry about one more thing. But Mia and Eva had their own way of sensing changes. During breakfast, they watched their parents with curiosity. Mommy smells good today, Eva observed. And she smiles differently, Mia added. Mr. Julian also looks like he got something, said the little philosopher Eva. Clara and Julian exchanged knowing glances. Those children were too smart to hide anything from them. In the afternoon, while the girls were playing in the garden under the watchful eye of Chef Leo, an unexpected guest arrived. Dr. Arthur Evans, the man with the golden retriever, with whom Mia had run away that day. Sorry to bother you, he said, but I wanted to talk to you. Go ahead, Julian replied. I heard about the lawsuit, about that man who is trying to take the girls from you. Clara looked at him in surprise. How do you know? Portland is a small city and I am a retired judge. I know people. I hear things. Arthur looked at the girls playing in the garden. And I wanted to tell you that I am willing to testify in court. Testify about what? About the mother you are? About how much these children love Mr. Blackwood. I've been coming here for dinner for 2 years, and I've never seen happier children. Clara felt tears come to her eyes. That's very kind of you. It's not kindness. It's justice. Arthur patted her shoulder. That man may have money and influence, but you have something more important. True love. And the court, if it is just, will see that. After he left, Clara felt a little better. Maybe they were not completely alone in that fight. At night, when the restaurant was closed, Julian gathered the entire staff in the main dining room. Chef Leo, the waitresses, the kitchen helpers. Everyone listened in suspense. I wanted to tell everyone personally, he began. Tomorrow, I'm marrying Clara. A murmur of surprise ran through the room, followed by applause. Chef Leo smiled widely, like a father at his daughter's wedding. "But there's one more thing," Julian continued. "Probably, in the coming weeks, we will be visited by journalists, lawyers, maybe even court representatives. I ask that you remember that the private life of our family is not material for gossip. We are with you." Sarah, the oldest waitress, who had not been very friendly to Clara before, said, "These girls belong here, with you." Hearing that, Clara felt her heart expand. Those people with whom she worked every day had become her family. "There's one more thing," she added, taking courage. "Maybe not everyone knows, but I finished culinary school. If you allow me, I would like to help in the kitchen sometimes. I have some ideas for new dishes." Chef Leo's eyes widened. "Culinary school? Why didn't you tell us?" "Because it's a long story. But now, with so many problems, maybe it's worth using all of our skills." On the next day, Clara and Julian got married in a small registry office. The witnesses were Chef Leo and Dr. Arthur Evans. Clara wore a simple white dress, Julian a dark suit. There were no flowers, no orchestra, or 100 guests, just the two of them, and the promise that they would stay together in good and bad times. "Mr. Julian Blackwood, do you take Ms. Clara Jenkins as your wife?" "I do." "Ms. Clara Jenkins, do you take Mr. Julian Blackwood as your husband?" Clara looked into the eyes of the man who had risked everything for her. "I do." After the ceremony, they returned to the restaurant, where a surprise awaited them. The entire team had prepared a small party in the garden. Chef Leo baked a cake, and Sarah decorated the tables with flowers. Mia and Eva, when they found out what had happened, were delighted. "Is Mr. Julian really our daddy now?" Eva asked. "Yes, my love," Clara replied. "Now we are a real family." "And no one is going to separate us?" Mia asked. "No one," Julian said firmly, picking her up in his arms. "I promise." But even in that happy moment, Clara could not get rid of the uneasiness. She knew that Marcus would not give up. The marriage could strengthen her legal position, but it would not stop a man determined to get what he wanted. That night, while she was in her husband's arms, her husband, for the first time in months, she felt truly happy. But that happiness was fragile as crystal glass, and Clara knew that one careless gesture would be enough for everything to break. Outside, the rain whispered, and in the distance, the lights of Portland flickered. Somewhere there, in his elegant mansion, Marcus Thorne was probably planning his next move. But today, Clara did not want to think about it. Today, she was the wife of the man she loved, and the mother of 2 girls who were her whole world. Tomorrow will be tomorrow. Today, she was happy. 1 week after the wedding, Clara was in the kitchen of the Gilded Palette with an apron tied around her waist, preparing her first signature dish for the customers. Chef Leo watched her with a mixture of curiosity and respect. Her movements were safe, precise, like those of someone who really understands the art of cooking. "Duck rondelles with cashews and honey and thyme sauce," she explained, delicately arranging the pasta. "My grandmother's recipe, but with a modern touch. I've never seen this technique for making pasta," Chef Leo admitted. "Where did you learn that?" "At college, but especially with my grandmother. She said that cooking is not just food, it's telling stories." At that moment, Julian entered the kitchen with a serious expression. "Clara, we need to talk." "What happened?" "The court papers have arrived. The hearing is scheduled for next week." "So fast?" "Marcus Thorne accelerated the process. He has influence." Chef Leo discreetly left the kitchen, leaving them alone. Clara leaned on the counter, feeling the world shake around her. "Do we have a lawyer?" "Yes, Dr. Ricardo Jones, a family law specialist. But he warned me. Thorne has a very good legal team." That night, while the girls were sleeping, Clara and Julian sat in the garden with folders full of documents. The lawyer prepared them for what could happen in court. "They will try to present you as an unstable mother," Julian said, reading the notes. "They will emphasize that you live at your workplace, that your previous job ended in scandal. But that's not true. It doesn't matter what's true. What matters is how it looks to the judge." Clara got up and walked around the garden. In the moonlight, the swing swayed gently in the wind. The same swing where her daughters spent carefree hours. "Julian, maybe we should get divorced." "What?" He jumped from the chair. "If they allege that living at the restaurant is not a place for children, maybe if I rented an apartment, if we separated, they would not have the argument that I am manipulating you. Clara, don't say that. We are a family. And what if this family makes me lose the girls?" Julian approached her and took her hands. "You won't lose them. I will not allow it." "But what if—" He interrupted her with a kiss. "Trust me, I have a plan." The next day, a man Clara did not expect to see came to the restaurant. Mr. Peixoto, the food critic who had previously asked her unpleasant questions. "Mrs. Blackwood," he said with a polite smile, "could we talk? I have nothing to add to your article. It's not about that. I heard you've started cooking. I would like to taste your cuisine." Clara looked at him suspiciously. "Why?" "Because I am a food critic, and I like to discover talents." At Julian's insistence, Clara prepared a tasting of her dishes for Peixoto. Duck rondelles, smoked pork rib bean soup, her great-grandmother's recipe, breaded steak with a nut crust, and for dessert, tapioca pudding with honey and nut sauce. Peixoto ate concentratedly, making notes. Clara stood to the side, nervously pulling her apron. "Where did you learn that?" he finally asked. "With family, and at culinary school. These flavors, it's not a common cuisine. It's a cuisine with a soul, a cuisine that tells a story. It's exactly what I wanted." Peixoto dropped his cutlery and looked at her with respect. "I would like to write an article, not about your personal problems, but about your cuisine, about how someone can transform traditional Brazilian dishes into works of art." Clara felt her heart beat faster. "Seriously? Seriously? And besides," Peixoto hesitated, "I have a son the same age as your daughters. If someone tried to take him from me, I would like people to be on my side." The article was published 3 days before the hearing. The title was "Portland's Hidden Treasure, The Cook Who Cooks with Her Heart." Peixoto described Clara as a talented head chef who united family traditions with modern gastronomy. He wrote about her rondelles as small masterpieces, and about her approach to cooking as a philosophy of life. "That's incredible," Sarah said, reading the article aloud in the kitchen. "Listen, Clara Blackwood is an example of a woman who, despite life's difficulties, did not give up and is making her dreams come true. Her cuisine is proof that talent and determination can overcome everything." Chef Leo smiled widely. "Now, Mr. Thorne will have a problem. It will be difficult to convince the court that you are hiding from responsibility when the newspapers write about you as a rising star of gastronomy." But Clara was not so optimistic. "It's just an article. Marcus has lawyers, money, influence, and we have the truth," Julian said, "and we have each other." On the night before the hearing, Clara bathed the girls as she did every night. Mia and Eva felt the tension at home, although no one explained the details to them. "Mommy, why is everyone sad?" Eva asked. "Not everyone, my love. Just adults sometimes worry about various things." "About us?" Clara hesitated. "Yes, a little bit about you too." "But we are good," Mia protested. "Very good. The best girls in the world. So why are you worried?" How to explain to a 4-year-old that sometimes being good is not enough, that the adult world is full of injustices and cruelties, Because I love you very much, she finally said. And sometimes when we love someone very much, we worry that nothing bad will happen to that person. We love you too, Mommy, Eva said, hugging her. And Daddy Julian too. Daddy Julian, Clara repeated with a smile. The girls had been calling him that since the wedding. That night, Clara could not sleep for a long time. Tomorrow would be the day that would decide her future. Tomorrow, she would know if love, determination, and struggle would be enough to keep what was most important. Next to her, Julian, her husband, partner, father to her children in every sense except biological, slept. In the next room, Mia and Eva, her world, her everything, slept. Tomorrow, she would fight for them with everything she had. The day of the hearing began with rain. Clara was in front of the mirror, trying to calm her trembling hands. She put on a dark gray pantsuit, the only elegant outfit she had, and tied her hair in a tight bun. She wanted to look serious, responsible, like someone who deserves the trust of the court. "It will be okay," Julian said, adjusting her collar. "The truth is on our side. The girls stayed with Chef Leo, who promised to take them to the park so they wouldn't stay home worrying." Mia hugged Clara at the farewell. "Mommy, come back soon. I will, my love. I promise." The Civil Forum in Portland looked grim under the autumn rain. In the lobby, Clara saw Marcus Thorne with his legal team. 3 men in expensive suits who talked quietly, reviewing documents. Marcus looked confident, like a man accustomed to winning. "Mrs. Blackwood." Their lawyer, Dr. Richard Jones, approached her. "Everything ready? Remember what we agreed on. Calm, truthful. Don't let yourself be provoked." The courtroom was smaller than she expected. Judge Anna Rodriguez was a woman in her 50s, with a severe but fair gaze. "The case refers to the custody of minors Mia and Eva Jenkins," she began. "The plaintiff Marcus Thorne seeks the attribution of his parental rights, invoking biological ties and the ability to provide better living conditions for the children." The lawyer for Marcus was the first to stand up. He was an older man, with gray hair and confident manners, of someone who had won hundreds of cases. "Your Honor, my client." For years, he was not aware of the existence of his daughters. When he found out, he immediately took steps to correct this situation. Mr. Thorne can provide the children with a stable home, the best education, financial security. He continued talking about Marcus's mansion, about his stable financial situation, about the plans to send the girls to the best private schools. He presented Clara as a woman who lives in uncertainty, changes jobs, lives in an inadequate commercial location for children. The mother, despite her undeniable good intentions, cannot guarantee the stability of the children. Her relationship with the employer raises doubts about her motivations. Living in a restaurant is an inadequate environment for minors. Clara listened and felt her world crumbling into pieces. Every word sounded so logical, so convincing. On paper, Marcus really seemed like the best option. Then, it was their lawyer's turn. Dr. Jones stood up calmly and looked at the judge. "Your Honor, this case is not about money or the size of a house. It is about love and responsibility." He began by telling Clara's story, how she raised her daughters alone for 6 years, how Marcus disappeared when he found out about the pregnancy, how he rejected his daughters before they were even born. Mr. Thorne had 6 years to come and be a father, 6 years to get to know his daughters, and he only appeared when he thought it could be useful for his political career. He called the witnesses. The first was Dr. Arthur Evans, the retired judge, who spoke about the mother Clara was, how happy the girls were at the restaurant. "For 2 years I have observed this family," he said in a calm voice, and I have never seen children more loved, more well-behaved, happier. Then, Chef Leo testified, who spoke about daily life in the restaurant, about how the girls are surrounded by care, not just by their parents, but by an entire community of people who love them. They are not children left to themselves, he emphasized. They are children raised by an entire family, because the restaurant is our family. The psychologist, Dr. Rodriguez, also testified. Her report was mixed. The girls were happy and healthy. But the restaurant environment was really atypical. However, she added, in the conversations with the children, their attachment to the current caregivers is clearly perceived. They refer to Mr. Blackwood as Daddy, and they see their eventual separation from their mother as a threat to their safety. Finally, it was Clara's turn. Her heart beat fast when she walked to the witness stand. Mrs. Blackwood, their lawyer began, please, tell the court about your daughters. Clara took a deep breath. Mia and Eva are everything to me. For 6 years, I have done everything to give them love, security, stability. Maybe we don't live in a mansion, but we have a home full of love. Maybe I'm not rich, but I'm rich in what's most important. And what do you feel for Mr. Thorne? Nothing, she replied sincerely. He is a stranger to me, a man who rejected my daughters before they were even born, a man who only appeared in our lives when he thought it could be useful to him. The lawyer for Marcus stood up for cross-examination. He was relentless. Is it true that you were fired from your previous job for theft? It was a false accusation. But you were fired? Yes. Is it true that for months you did not have a fixed place of residence? Yes. But is it true that you maintain a relationship with the employer, on whom your housing and professional situation depend? Is it not a relationship of dependency? It's love. Can you guarantee that, in case of the end of this relationship, the children will have a guaranteed roof over their heads? The question hit her like a lightning bolt, because the truth was that she could not guarantee it. If something happened to Julian, if their relationship ended, what would happen to the girls? Our relationship will not end, she said. Is that your guarantee to the court? That your relationship will never end? The silence in the room was louder than any scream. Clara knew she could not promise something like that. Nobody can. I can't guarantee the future, she finally said. I can only promise that I will love my daughters and take care of them, as long as I live. When she returned to her place, she saw in Julian's eyes love and support. But she also saw uneasiness. Marcus's lawyer was good. Very good. Marcus testified last. He spoke fluently about his plans, about the desire to make up for lost time, about the willingness to sacrifice his career for the good of his daughters. I regret that decision of 6 years ago, he said, looking directly at the judge. I was young, scared, but now I'm ready to be the father my daughters deserve. He sounded sincere, convincing, like a man who really regrets his mistakes. The judge announced a pause for deliberation. The sentence would be handed down in an hour. The longest hour of Clara's life had just begun. The waiting hour seemed like an eternity. Clara and Julian sat in the courthouse corridor holding hands. Words were not necessary. Each of them prayed in silence for the same miracle. Regardless of what happens, Julian finally said, we won't give up. We will continue fighting. And if we lose, then we will lose together. Finally, they were called back into the room. Judge Rodriguez seemed tired, as if weighing human destinies was as difficult for her as it was for the parties in the process. After hearing the testimonies and analyzing all the evidence, she began. The court reached the following conclusions. Mr. Marcus Thorne is, without a doubt, the biological father of the minors. His financial and social situation is stable. He can provide the children with a high standard of living and education. Clara's world began to crumble. However, the judge continued, the court must be guided, above all, by the well-being of the children. And the well-being of the children is not just material security, but mainly emotional security. A pause. Mr. Thorne, for 6 years, did not show interest in his daughters. He did not support them, neither financially nor emotionally. His sudden appearance at a time when he plans a political career raises doubts about his true motivations. Marcus went pale. On the other hand, Mrs. Blackwood, for 6 years, raised her daughters alone, providing them with love, care, and emotional stability. The fact that her material situation is not ideal cannot be a reason for the removal of her parental rights. Especially significant for the court are the statements of the psychologist, from which it can be seen that the children treat Mr. Blackwood as their daddy and see their eventual separation from their mother as a threat to their safety. The judge looked at Marcus. Mr. Thorne has the right to contact with his biological daughters. The court grants him the right to meetings, one Saturday a month, for 4 hours, in the presence of a social worker. Contacts may be expanded after 1 year, as long as a positive bond is established with the children. Marcus stood up abruptly. "This is absurd. I am their father." "You are their biological genetic donor," the judge replied coldly. "A father is made over years of daily care, dedication." Mr. Blackwood proved to be that. She looked at Clara and Julian. The main custody of the children remains with the mother and her husband. The court expresses the hope that all parties will act for the good of the children and not for their own ambitions. Clara felt her legs give way. They won. Her daughters stay with her. Marcus left the room without saying a word, surrounded by his lawyers. His face expressed anger and humiliation. But Clara did not feel triumph. She felt only relief and gratitude. In the hallway, Chef Leo was waiting for them with Mia and Eva. The girls threw themselves into their parents' arms. "Mommy, Daddy Julian," they screamed at the same time. "We missed you!" "We missed you too," Clara said, hugging them tight. "And now we will never be separated again." 1 month later, the Gilded Palate celebrated a double victory. Not only did they win the lawsuit, but the restaurant received its first Michelin star, largely thanks to Clara's signature dishes, which enchanted food critics from all over the country. At night, when the restaurant was closed, their new and expanded family sat in the garden at a long table. Chef Leo served his specialties. The waitresses laughed at work anecdotes, and Mia and Eva ran between the tables, distributing their drawings to everyone. "Mommy?" Eva approached her with a serious expression. "I drew our family." On the drawing was Clara, Julian, the 2 girls, Chef Leo with a big spoon in his hand, Ginger the cat, and a big house that looked suspiciously like a restaurant. "And who is this?" Clara asked, pointing to a figure next to it. "It's that man who said he was our daddy," Eva explained. "But he's far away because he doesn't live with us." "And what do you think about him?" Eva pondered seriously. "Maybe he's not bad, but our real daddy is Daddy Julian, because a real daddy is the one who stays." Those words from a 4-year-old child contained more wisdom than all the legal arguments in the world. When the children finally went to sleep, Clara and Julian were left alone in the garden. She sat on the bench under the oak tree, the same place where they first declared their love. "You know something?" Clara said, resting her head on his shoulder. "I don't feel like I'm in a fairy tale." No, I feel better. Fairy tales end. And this is real life. Our real, imperfect, beautiful life." Julian kissed the top of her head. "And it's just beginning." In the restaurant windows, the lights went on. Chef Leo was preparing for the next day. Somewhere distant, a group of friends laughed, returning from a night out. Life continued its course, simple and beautiful. And in the small room above the restaurant, 2 girls slept, having everything a child needed: a home, love, and the certainty that they would wake up tomorrow in the arms of the people who had chosen them forever. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was something better. It was real. I sincerely hope today's story pleased you. Subscribe to the channel to continue following similar content. Leave a like and comment on what you think. See you in the next video.